Welcome to the last video in this little three-part series on how to GK and just brawling Battleship in general. But I really do recommend you watch the first two videos before this one, as we're going to be discussing some of the strengths and weaknesses and how they impact your ability to push in and timing your pushes. So they're really good videos to learn a little bit more about how the GK works specifically. But for timing your push, there's a few key things you need to look out for. One, of course, is destroyers. They're very, very good at stopping a push. So if you're on a side of the map where a destroyer could possibly be on your flank, torping you, that's a really, really bad time to push. Don't do that. There's a bunch of no-nos. Another one you don't want to push into is open water. If you're in open water, pushing into a cruiser, more likely a high DPM HE spamming cruiser, behind an island that you can't see that has spotting of you. That is a recipe for disaster because you're going to get burned down very, very quickly in any ship. No ship can handle that. Number three is if there's a CV in the game and that CV has been pretty good about maneuvering around the map to deal with the biggest threat. Not every CV player is good at this, and not every one of them is aware enough to understand that they can move around the map very, very quickly and set up those crossfires on demand. So if you find that the enemy CV is constantly switching flanks and kind of reading your team quite well, you don't want to push into that. And in general, I just really don't like to push in when there's an aircraft carrier in the game, because they'll just come up onto your broadside with torpedo bombers and you're forced to be angled to likely the ships that you're brawling, the enemy battleships, that kind of thing. And he'll just crossfire you like that, and he'll get an easy torpedo strike on you and just do so much unhealable damage to you. And you'll probably die very, very, very quickly. So those are the main situations I'm looking out for to never push. The other thing I'm looking for is there a crossfire? Even if it's open, even if there's good islands for me to push up with, does anybody have a good crossfire set up with battleships or even heavy cruisers, that kind of thing? You don't want to push into a crossfire. In fact, the goal with a brawl is actually to wait for the enemy team to push into you. We saw with the first two videos how effective that was, especially that first video with the Yamato pushing into us. We just kind of melted him like that. If you have to push in, and sometimes you do, to try and win games, which this is a good example, this game here, you need to time it properly. This North Carolina is pushing too early. You could see, I believe I already said for him to get back, and that's because the enemy team could very, very easily have a torpedo boat here, and that Kitakazi, or this Nevsky's returning, and if that Nevsky goes behind the island at I3, he's just going to be able to HE spam us all to death. There is no reason we should be pushing here. We have an excellent position even. We're crossfiring the enemy team. We're dealing with the enemy ships that are behind this island next to the decap. Of course, this is one of the most powerful angles you can have on this map, and this is angles you're looking to get into, even in a brawling battleship. This is because decap is one of the most important channels to get control of on this map, and anything you can do to help flush the enemy team out of their really strong positions behind that island, it's a really good thing. And even with our legendary mod build with no range, we get some pretty good hits in over there. Now, this push we're about to do here is because our Akizuki has pushed in to the B cap. He's overcommitted. There is guaranteed a Kitakazi around, and of course there's a Nevsky with radar. He doesn't necessarily know that the Akizuki's in range, but the minute that Akizuki steps on the cap, he's gonna know. We need to support this guy. This is a bad push. The Vermont is there to crossfire, tons of HE spammers, Ibuki, and Anchorage behind islands, and of course the Nevsky has a crossfire on us. And there's a DD to Torp here. This is a really bad push for all the reasons mentioned earlier, but we need to do it. And that's because our team is doing it. Playing as a team often results in better matches than just playing by yourself and making the right play. And as the top tier battleship with full health still, I really should be in there a little bit sooner than I am even right now. But it's still a decision that is difficult for me to make because I feel like I'll be throwing my ship away by pushing in here. But we really do need to get in here and support. We can take on a Vermont, we can take on a Nevsky with the amount of firepower we have, we can help our Akazuki deal with the Kitakaze. We just need to be there in time. And this push is really going to rely on us getting rid of the Kitakaze. And that's who we're going to shoot at. This improved dispersion results in some pretty nasty hits on DDs sometimes. 8,000 damage right there. Our Akazuki does the right thing in smoking up. And this is a pretty good trade overall so far. But I know it's going to be very easy for the enemy team to rush down our Akazuki. Our North Carolina is basically dead at this point, so I'm not pushing in to help him. I'm pushing in to try and help this DD stay alive just a little bit longer. We're staying dark here for a little bit. This is very convenient because we're waiting to see what this enemy Kitakaze is going to do. We don't want to use up our shot on a bow in Vermont. We don't want to use up our shot on a Nevsky that could very easily just angle in and bounce a lot of our shot. So we do take the shot there. I guess I'm remembering this game wrong, sorry. But we do take the shot. It's not the best shot to take because, as you can see, he just angled in slightly and most of our shot did nothing. So I should have probably waited. I would have stayed dark a little bit longer. You can see the Ibuki and Anchorage already getting those cross-shot HE shells in. We pop our Hydro because the Kitakaze knows exactly where we are. Talking about timing our consumable usage, we do need to use our Hydro, spawning torps like that. And here I make a mistake. I get greedy for my rear guns, like we mentioned in the second video. I get too greedy for my rear guns and the hope that this Nevsky is going to turn broadside. And too late do I do the slowdown and turn in. And I could have easily dodged this. I had so much time, good rudder shift. I could have easily fit in this gap. But I messed up and I used my damage con on that fire to stay dark. So we're in a bit of trouble here. But we're still going to be okay because I'm assuming the enemy team is going to be completely focused on our Akazuki and keep taking him out. And I think we get a little bit lucky there with our front guns. You're not going to be guaranteed that kind of damage on the Nevsky. And I do switch my secondaries to him, but it's important to take out as many guns as you can when you're in a brawl. If you have the opportunity to kill something, take it, even if it's on low health and your secondaries are on it. I didn't trust my secondaries to finish him off, so we use our main guns and do that. We need to get as angled as possible to this Vermont and at the same time deal with this Kitakaze. We know he's used up all of his torpedoes and he's within our Hydra range. He's gunning us, but our secondaries are just going to take him out at this point. They've probably been shooting enough time to get some really good accuracy. You can see just how bad Kurfürst armor is. We were pretty angled to that Vermont, and he still slapped us for 25k. And there we go. Close quarters expert Kitakaze, waiting for that kill to come in, and then switching the secondaries on the Vermont. A decent brawl right there. Even though it was a bad scenario, we lost, well, 3 ships to the enemy team losing 2. That's not the best result to happen, but we can still make it a somewhat even trade if I can kill this Vermont, which I believe I can. Now, something like this is not the brawl I'm looking for. I'm looking for a scenario without the DD, without the HE spammers. And that's one of the reasons I tried to turn away as soon as I could. I wanted to get as much distance as I could between myself and that Ibuki and Anchorage near the sea cap there. I didn't want to have to deal with that extra HE spam pressure, so I tried to get away as soon as I could. You can see the Bismarck and Kremlin are coming back. I'm also trying to get away from them. 1v1s are excellent, excellent opportunities to take. And I think that in a brawling scenario, Kurfürst is going to be really, really hard to beat for Vermont. He's going to get some pretty nasty salvos into us, into our superstructure, but you got to remember, there's like a 40-second reload. So him dealing 15, 16k to our superstructure, it sucks, but it's certainly not the end of the world because his reload is so long and he doesn't get all those secondaries. There's that big hit like I mentioned. And we're already up to 200k, definitely activated Lucians. Kurfürst in a brawl is no joke, and I've had a lot of fun running this more hybrid build, allowing for better long-range dispersion and a little more utility across the map, as this game showed. But as far as timing your pushes, you do want to be patient. You notice this push happened around that 12-minute mark on the in-game timer, so 8 minutes into the game or so, and patience is really the key when it comes to something like a Kurfürst, because you're not in Ohio where you can just sit out in front of people and somehow survive like I did in my video last week. You don't have that fast cooldown heal. You have a gigantic superstructure, and everybody wants to farm you when you're around. So there's the brawl. completed at this point, and we've done a really good job of bringing this game back for our team. We have control of A and B. We also have control of the decap. The enemy team is stuck in the middle, and I just need to live at this point. And assuming our team doesn't screw things up, we should be a-okay to win this match. But that's the other thing you need to know, is sometimes your brawls can't live forever, and sometimes you need to know when to disengage here. I could have turned in and continued and gone and brawled this Bismarck. He's only, what, 15 kilometers away from me? It wouldn't have been hard to actually close that gap, but I would have likely died in that very short amount of time because my heals take forever to get back, and you can see just how much healing we have. We'll be back up over around 60,000 HP, even though we were on pretty low health there by the end. And that is also the other thing, is you want to take a fight, take a brawl, and then you want to get out and heal up. That is one of the reasons I really enjoy having 5 heals. It gives you a lot of opportunity to take good damage, take big damage even, and still have enough capacity to fight in the late game. I've sped this up because honestly my aim sucked and there was no good hits, and well, our team ended up losing the decap. We lost B because, well, there's no way I'm holding B against a pretty full health Kremlin and Bismarck together and a Drake. So this game is lost, and you can't win everyone in a Kurfürst, but playing with your team, pushing like that, is a good scenario, decent to help you win the game. But the main thing is you're looking for opportunities to push in where you're going to be successful. And when you have teammates that are almost used as distractions, that's one way for you to be successful, and the other way is to know who's around. And like I mentioned before, there's a lot of no-nos when it comes to pushing in, but every once in a while you get those games where you can, and the Kurfürst is a lot of fun still. Even in 2021, in the campy meta, you can still find opportunities to push in using islands and all that. But that's the game. 250k damage was pretty solid out of the Kurfürst, and actually all of these games happened on the same night. So it's not just cherry-picked games. I just decided to play this hybrid build, and I think I played 5 games, and these are the three best ones that happened. And the other ones were just kind of boring. Blowouts one way or the other. That's why I didn't end up showing them. So a good game, a good ship. We really outbrawled that Vermont. No surprises there. And even a Confederate in this one, meaning we were damaging a lot of different ships. And again, an unfortunate loss. But it was a better game than a blowout, right? It was a close match, and those are the ones I definitely enjoy more. Again, 40,000 damage from our secondaries. They do help, but those main guns are your bread and butter. And that's why we're looking to get those main gun builds with the accuracy. I think that's just the best way to play it, especially since you still get 11 kilometers of secondary range. And again, we are on the exact same build, but I want to talk a little bit about the concealment, as I mentioned in the previous video, maybe being worth choosing over emergency repair expert, allowing you to push in a little easier. The reason I don't personally take that skill is because it's generally pretty useless when you're in a brawl, right? You are either undetected because you're behind islands, or you're detected because you're in open water. It's very rare that the reason you're not detected is because of this bit of concealment, right? It would go from 15.9 to around 14 point something. And that little window can help every once in a while, but I do find that the extra healing generally helps me a little bit more when I'm able to make those pushes, those plays where I take a fight, lose some health, and then I back off for a bit, heal up, and then come back. So that's why I personally don't like the concealment, even though it does allow you to initiate a push a little easier. But that push really isn't possible if you require concealment expert to start your push. That's my opinion. The number of pushes I've made using double concealment builds generally result in failure just because I'm able to push in a little bit sooner than I probably should be, and I often get myself killed that way. So running no concealment, at least on the commander, can help me time my push a little better and actually think and consider, can I make this play or not? I do like having this concealment though, one of them. Otherwise you're at like 17 kilometers or more. So that's really difficult to use, especially with a 19 kilometer range running legendary mod. But it's still doable. And you saw some of my videos earlier on in this patch using Ship Consumables Mod 1, getting those massive, massive, massive heals. And that's a fun one too. There's many ways you can build your ship. There's many ways to play a Kurfürst or any ship in this game. But this is the one that I have found to be really effective, surprisingly so recently, and I wanted to share that with you. And I hope these 3 videos gave you some ideas, and I hope you enjoyed it. So thank you very much for watching them, and I hope you have a great day.